Goodrow, we were talking a while back about streaming music services, if you'll recall.
Yes.
And my thinking on that is about as unclear now as it's ever been.
I've been doing a little reading on it lately, and I cannot form a good opinion on it either way. I know how
I guess
I
we
know
should.
how I feel about it personally, but I don't know where it's going. Is what I'm getting at. I don't know the future of it. But based on reading what I'm reading, not a lot of other people do either.
Oh, hi, folks. Sorry, we keep forgetting to acknowledge you guys, unclear thinkers out there. It's time for another episode of Unclear Thinking, and that good fellow over there is Anthony Goodrow, and this lesser educated fellow over here is Larry Smoke. Well, I've been listening to my own music so much lately, and it's hearing news stories about Apple buying Beats Audio and what they might turn it into, and I hear all these quote unquote experts talking about that nobody buys music anymore. That iTunes sales, digital sales are down like something like 14% in the last month, and the music industry is going streaming, and artists are hollering because they don't make enough royalties off of streaming as opposed to actual sales. And I guess once again my age is starting to really make itself felt. I still have to listen to my own music. I want my music with me, and if I try Pandora or Spotify, what it feeds me is something I don't like. So, I mean, am I just being an old fogey, or am I would ask you if I'm a Luddite, but I think we both know I'm not a Luddite. So
You're far from a Luddite.
so
As far as I know.
So what's wrong with me?
I think one of the issues may be, and I don't know Spotify that well. I have not experimented with that. I know Pandora. I know there's a lesser known app out there called Slacker.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a Beats Audio guy.
Mm. Oh, I didn't realize that you use Beats Audio. That's news to me.
I've had Beats Audio for about 4 or 5 months now,
mm-hmm.
and I absolutely love it.
Mm.
But I know where your frustration with Pandora is. I know where that comes from, because I was the same way. I would start Pandora, and it never seemed to get a real accurate feel for what I like.
Well, I wouldn't even say that my frustration is with any one service. To me, and frustration might not even be the right word. I don't personally, and I'm speaking just for me, I don't feel like the streaming services give me what I want. Any of them. I think I've mentioned to you before, I've dabbled in Pandora and I've dabbled in Spotify, but generally when I use those, I pull up film scores. I love movie music, so on every, I won't say once every blue moon, but it's not like I'm doing it every day either. Every couple of weeks, so I'll kind of get in the frame of mind where I'm sitting at my desk working, and I want to hear film scores, and I will give Pandora and Spotify credit. They feed me enough varied stuff in that vein that's okay. But if I was looking for anything else in my battery of musical taste, they just don't give me anything that appeals to me. And I understand that these services are kind of geared towards current music, and
Right.
I'm an old fogey, so by definition,
You and me both.
And not necessarily that I want to be an old fogey. The entire reason that I would ask a streaming service application to give me something is because I want to discover new music. We remember the joy of hearing something new. Hey, that's great. I mean, I want to hear more of that. But it's just nothing that meets my taste seems to be coming out of it. So I have to carry my music, my old music, with me and keep it on shuffle. That's the only way I get anything that I like. Is it just me?
Well, as far as discovering new music goes, I have not had success with any of the services for that purpose. That always involves me stumbling onto something somehow in some unexpected way. And also, it probably has a lot to do with, I don't think most of the music that is going to be given to me through an algorithm is not going to fit that criteria. It's not going to be new music that I haven't heard of. It's not going to test me in that way. It's going to be stuff that, because I tend to listen to older music anyway, it's going to give me music that I already know.
Right. You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say that at some point too, that I can try to program a quote unquote station on any of these services, and that I like hair metal. I'm
Right.
not that I ever had enough hair on my head to bang, but I always liked hair metal. And if I say find me something like Def Leppard, well, what I mean is find me something like Def Leppard that's new. But they never do that. They find me stuff like Def Leppard from 25 years ago. Well, I already know that. I've already got that.
I've only found 2 new bands worth listening to in the last year, and prior to that, it was probably going deeper. It's probably maybe 4 or 5 bands in the last 5 years that I really, really liked. But we're the same age. I remember my memory of finding new music was going to the record store and I used to spend hours on end at Manifest Disc in Columbia back when it used to be the size of a closet, and just spending several hours in there flipping through albums. And they had a little turntable up there and a pair of headphones, and if you wanted to hear something, you popped it on the turntable and listened to it.
Well, let's be fair. We also discovered the music on the radio, and admittedly, we were. Well, I won't speak for you. I was probably antisocial enough that most of what was on the radio didn't thrill me. If anything, it probably made me angry. But every now and then, you'd hear something that if you didn't like it, it might would steer you a direction towards something you liked. And that's something that the iPod generation, the last 15 years, we don't have a disassociated third party, well, for lack of a better term, feeding us new stuff, suggesting new stuff to us, playing stuff out of the blue that we would hear. With everybody carrying their music with them the last 15 years, if you don't know to go look for it, you'll never hear it. And I guess in the sense that's one thing that the streaming services might do, and that I would like them to do, is steer me towards things that I wouldn't ordinarily hear. But that gets back to that I can't seem to find a way to get any of them to build an algorithm in such a way that it will know what I mean.
One thing I noticed about Beats Audio is, because my music taste, to me personally, my musical heyday was the very late 80s, early to mid 90s. 90% of the CDs in boxes in my closet come from that period, and that's what I'm drawn to today. So when I set up my preferences in Beats, their algorithm is such that that's what it suggests to me. So not a lot. There's going to be nothing basically new that comes from there to me, which that's fine with me, because there's plenty of that out there to listen to. And it's more of a memory jogging thing. I see bands that I've completely forgotten about pop up in my feed, and so it's been pretty accurate. It seems to know what I want to listen to. And finding new stuff has been strictly on an accidental basis, so I don't really look for that. I'm not. Now, if I hear of something, if I see somebody, a reference to some band, maybe a record review that I've read online or something of that nature, I'll go look for it and listen to it. But that's not going to come passively to me.
I'm in the same boat. What little new music, and I say new in air quotes, that I buy tends to be new stuff done by acts that I've been following for the last 20, 25 years, or solo projects from those people, or associated acts. You ever hear of Frontiers Records, the record label? It's a label. I think they're based in Italy, actually, but that label carries all of the acts from our heyday that can't get record deals anywhere else. Journey is on Frontiers Records, ironically. And I just had a brain freeze because I had a mental list of Night Ranger is on Frontiers Records. I believe Styx is on Frontiers Records these days. My favorite band, Mr. Big, they're on Frontiers Records. So there is that avenue that old fart me can go look and try to find something. But other than that, yeah, it's difficult for me to find anything of that genre or that style from the young whippersnappers.
Mm-hmm.
I did happen to stumble across Hailstorm earlier this year, and really, once I learned about them and found the 2 albums they've produced, I think they have a third one coming shortly. They've actually been around for about 5 years, and I never heard of them. I got lucky and stumbled across them. But using that band as a starting point, I did program an iTunes radio station, and actually was finally started being given some stuff that, like I've been looking for all along, new metal music. I'm sure anybody listening to this with any kind of toe in the current musical pond is screaming, well, you nitwit, if you'd just gone looking for current metal, you'd have found it. But we get back to, I'm an old fogey, I didn't know to do that.
Right.
I counted on somebody to curate that and give it to me, and the streaming services won't do it.
Well, what does it tell you that Apple bought Beats Audio, given their launch of iTunes Radio not too terribly long ago?
The numbers definitely show that iTunes Radio is not that popular. I happen to like it. I mean, what I just said a few moments ago aside, I've kind of liked it from the get-go. And admittedly, I don't listen to it a lot because until recently, I didn't know how to set up a quote-unquote station to give me what I liked. But what little bit I listened to it, I've listened to movie scores on iTunes Radio as well, and I like it. Okay, but apparently I'm in a minority that it's definitely not very popular. I think Apple sees his writing on the wall and wanted an established streaming service with some street cred, so to speak, that they could, if not eventually, rebrand as something Apple Audio. At least it would be theirs, and keep them competitive with Spotify and Pandora and RDO and the like. What'll come of it will remain to be seen. There's rumblings. Trent Reznor is one of the big wigs, and he's saying publicly that he's working on something for Beats Audio for Apple that's not music production, but it's music related, and all of the so-called experts are reading between his lines and saying that he's probably in charge of however Apple wants to rearrange, rework Beats Audio for future use.
Rework in what sense?
That's the magic question. Whether it's
to be more artist friendly, or
whether it's reworking the deals with the labels to make terms more favorable for artists, to get them to maybe have some artists have their material exclusive to Beats Audio. You've heard what the Taylor Swift versus Spotify debacle the last week or two, that she's pulled all of her material off of Spotify, supposedly out of spite because she's making pennies from streaming. She would much rather make a higher percentage off of physical sales. And then there are some people that wonder if it's just not a big publicity stunt, that she'll easily make enough off of physical sales anyway, and it's just a way of keeping her new product the topic of conversation.
Well, let me throw some numbers out here to the listeners, and I'll try not to bog you down in math, because Lord knows it bogs me down when I'm reading them. But some numbers I picked out of some reading this week. It's funny you mentioned Taylor Swift, because let me back up for a second. Last month I read an article that as of the published date of that article, it was October, that there had been 0 single artist platinum albums to date in 2014. Absolute 0.
Yeah, Taylor Swift's new record will probably be the first one. Yeah.
It sold Taylor Swift's album sold 1.2 million copies the first week.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. It's platinum. Yeah.
Right after she took her catalog off Spotify. Mm-hmm. So, that. What does that tell you? That tells you
she probably would have sold that anyway. This is my opinion. I have no factual basis for that assessment. I happen to fall into camp to think that it's a publicity stunt. It's no secret that artists make pennies off of streaming, but that's really not the streaming service's fault. That's the record label's fault. I mean, the streaming services have to pay a percentage to the record label. What portion of that percentage trickles down to the artist is up to the label.
The labels are making off like bandits.
Yeah, I mean, well, they always have. That's nothing new.
I'll tell you this: Spotify claims that they have an average payout to the artist of 0.0084 cents per play.
Mm-hmm.
They claim a floor of 0.006 cents. However, there is some anecdotal evidence out there, just of I'll tell you an artist you've never heard of, but based on her payout, her name is Zoe Keating, and she is a cellist. I've never heard of her either, but based on her numbers that she has released or revealed, she was paid 0.0044 cents per play. But now on the flip side, Universal was an initial investor in Beats Audio before Apple purchased.
Yeah.
They made $500 million in the sale from Apple. That's what they walked away with. And they're one of the big three.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, they're doing just dandy. The artists are, of course, screaming about the whole arrangement. So now Spotify, with their business model, they claim to pay out 70% of their revenue. So that should improve as they increase in paid users, which they are, as of yesterday, their CEO said they have 12.5 million paid users today. So as with a static payout, that number will increase. So whether it will trickle down to artists, I guess is up to the labels. But
well, I doubt very seriously that I'm going to become a paid user, unless I can be convinced that any of these services are going to start giving me more of what I like. And let's face it, I listen to music some. I certainly don't listen to it as much as a 16-year-old would. I listen to podcasts.
Right. Well, that's probably
said the self-serving podcaster. But I do listen to music enough that and to get back to where we started, I want new music. My iTunes collection is 3,500 tracks. To some people, that's that's all you got. That's nothing. 3,500 tracks. That sounds pretty good, I guess, at first glance. But like some people would say, well, how many times can you listen to 3,500 tracks? So I'm always wanting new stuff. Every now and then Google Play will give away an album. I'll take it, pretty much no matter what. I've never bought a Katy Perry record in my life. Google Play was giving away a Katy Perry album a couple of weeks ago. I took it. What the hell? It's free. I guess stranger things have happened. I might even like the thing. I don't, but anyway, it was free, so I took it. And there's other instances. Starbucks gives you the free song of the month, and more often than not, I'll take it. And desperate for new music.
I'm sorry. What now?
I just said because I'm desperate for new music.
I'm still kicking myself for not downloading every song available when Napster was operating back in the day in its purest form, when it was strictly peer-to-peer. I guess Napster's completely dead now. They went to some sort of music service too as well.
Yeah, Napster. What Rhapsody that bought them out,
that's very possible.
I may be incorrect in that. I want to say Rhapsody, but I cannot swear to that. But you're right. They did. They went paid, and nothing much came of them.
But I should have hard drives full of songs.
Well, that was back in the days before broadband too. That one song would take you 20 minutes instead of 15 seconds.
That is true.
It wasn't that easy. Well, do you buy any music yourself anymore?
I was thinking this week. I've been thinking all weekend. I still cannot remember the last music I bought either in CD form or probably the last downloads I bought were from iTunes, but they were music that I knew and I had lost the CD of, or old music that I couldn't get my hands on.
Then let me rephrase the question: have you bought any new music of late? That's not replacing stuff, because I have bought one compact disc this year. Again, my favorite band, Mr. Big, they had a new album this year, and I bought that on compact disc just so I'd have the physical copy. And of course, then I ripped it, and I've been listening to my rip. I've actually bought a couple of digital albums, and another piece of evidence of my old foginess. I buy the whole album. I don't cherry pick songs. A single is supposed to be something that's giving you a taste of a larger pie, and you might like the whole pie, and more often than not, I'll take the chance. Now, I'm past the point of paying $14 for an album. I might pay $7 or $8 for it, but I have some musician friends that might take a swing at me for saying that, but I'm still willing to buy music is my point. the music industry seems the music distribution industry seems to be hell bent on taking everything streaming, and again, maybe I guess I am in such a minority. Everybody else wants their music in the cloud and prefer to stream it. I want my music. I want to own my music. I want to be, figuratively speaking, because you can't hold a computer file in your hand, but I mean, I want to hold my music in my hand. This is my music collection, and be able to pull it up at any point. I mean, streaming's great as long as you've got internet access to get to it. And sure, more often than not, you will. In major metropolitan areas, I guess that's not really a concern. But there are people out here in the boonies that like their music too, and unless you have dependable internet access, I don't see how streaming as a sole means of getting your music is that wise a choice. But
I'll tell you the two downsides I've found in it, because there are downsides, and I'm gonna tell you what they are. And this is as far as beats goes, as good as it is, like you just mentioned, there are spots on my drive home where I lose the bandwidth. I can still talk on my phone, but the music stops streaming. Not a big deal. But also, what I have noticed is they will pull stuff from their catalog from time to time and add stuff and pull it back and add stuff because
the Netflix problem.
Yes, Netflix does that as well. Now, because I'll have a playlist, I'll generate a playlist, and I'll be listening to it, and suddenly I noticed that one song I had on my playlist is not there anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That would be a bummer, wouldn't it?
And so, and I go and I look for that album, because if I make a mix or something like that, I'll go look for that album, and that album's not there. Now, on the other hand, I'll have looked for albums in the past that were not available. Then I'll go back and I'll see where they now are available, even old stuff, like I say, back from 20 years ago. But I'll tell you something really strange. A couple weeks ago on Beats, I went to look for an old Dr. Dre album. It was not available.
On his own service.
On his own service. They only had his latest album available, and I don't know how many albums he's cut, but I was looking for one particular, but only one was available out of his entire catalog. His own service only had one available. But that's just managing content, and I don't.
Well, see, if you had all of his records on your device, you could listen to any album you wanted. For you. I'm gonna be hailing the old folks home, aren't I? Jeez, getting old sucks. Well, we've, as usual, talked ourselves in circles again. Folks out there listening, if you've got any suggestions for this musically backward old fogey, you don't have to worry about suggesting Sinatra or Glenn Miller. I've already got those. But if you got anything you think I might like, please shoot me word. Shoot both of us word. Shoot Goodrow's too much of a Dr. Dre fan. He needs to expand his horizon some.
I'll tell you how diverse my tastes are. I told you I found two bands in the last year. One is a band called Tilts. They are a cross between the Black Crowes and AC/DC.
Ooh, I might like that. I need to find that.
Check that out. They just released their second album this year. Their last album is from 2012. I like their first album the best, which is not atypical in this business. The other band is Shovels and Rope, which is actually a husband and wife duo out of Charleston. My son saw them play at Bonnaroo, and they are the hillbilliest, bluegrass, country fried sounding group I've ever heard in my life. But I love it. And I typically do not like bluegrass. Bluegrass has gotten really big the last few years. I have not fallen onto that bandwagon. But this group really is. They really made an impact on me. It's one of the best I've heard in a long time.
You let your boy go to Bonnaroo?
Yeah, his money.
Did you ever hear Triumph, the insult comic dog, talking about Bonnaroo? He said Bonnaroo was the sound that Scooby-Doo made when he was climaxing. Bonnaroo!
I'll never get that image out of my head.
I love that crap.
Thanks for that.
Anyway, all right, that's enough. Folks, as I said, any suggestions you have, please send them to us. unclearthinking@gmail.com. Be glad to hear anything you have to suggest. I can go through and ignore the bad ones and embrace the good ones. We might have some things in the show notes. Unclearthinking.com. We're available on iTunes. We try to do this every couple of weeks. Hope you'll check in again next time. What you got to close out with, Goodrow? Oh, Twitter. Tell them about Twitter.
My Twitter is @AnthonyGoodrow, and Larry's Twitter is @LASmoke.
That it is. All right, folks. Until next time, thanks for listening. We'll see you then.
Peace out.